in this task, we're going to be creating some images. So this blue area here is where we're going to create the image. And as it says over here in the instructions, what you've got to do, in column O of this worksheet, you'll see the codes for each line of the image. And these are the code numbers right here. As it says at the top, this is the code for each line of the image. So the code for the first line of the image is 110000 and so on. And as it says here, your job is to update the contents of the cells in the big blue square, this area here, adding ones and zeros using these codes here. So the code for the first line, for example, I'm just going to go in here and pair these off. So we've got 1 1, and then we've got 2 zeros, then we've got 2 zeros, and we've got 0 and a 1, and so on. So this tells us that the first two cells should contain the value of 1 and 1. So I'm going to click here and type 1, click here, type 1, and then the next one should be 0 and 0. So I type a 0 and a 0, and you notice nothing's changed because that was already done. And then after this, we want 2 zeros, and then after that, we want a 0 and a 1, and then finally, we're going to have 2 1s at the end. And you'll notice that what's happened is the cells are just beginning to change colour. So as it says down here, if you have a 1 in a cell, it turns white. If you have a 0, it turns black. So what your task is to work through each of these codes here, using this code, for example, to fill in the codes that you're going to need, the digits for the second line. The third code here, you're going to use that to fill out the third line in the file, and so on, and gradually you'll see an image get created here. So once you've added all the codes, it says you want to save your work, so just save as normally, and then having done that, you're going to go on and complete the next task. So this is task number 1, this is task number 2, the high resolution task, and as it says here, you've got this yellow arrow that's pointing down at the tab. These are known as worksheets, these things at the bottom, so we're going to go into the higher resolution worksheets. And in here, you've got another code, but as you can see, this time the codes are quite a bit longer, and this one's actually got a mistake in it. You'll notice if you look at all these codes here, you can see this one here has got an extra digit at the end. So what would happen in this case is, as an extra piece of information in the file, we would just ignore that very last one there. But you're going to have to put ones and zeros into the bitmap into this file, this area here, to create the image. And then so very similar to type plus and 1, but this image has got many more squares in it. This one's 20 by 20. The previous one, if you look, is 10 by 10. So that means it's double the resolution, and therefore you get a much better image. For the third part of the task here, our job is to try, as it says here, and reproduce the image of the Spider-Man as closely as possible using 2-bit binary codes. So here's the image. This is what we're trying to reproduce. And this is the area you're going to try and reproduce it in. Now, as it says here, you will not be able to exactly reproduce the image, as they're not completely the same color, and you've only got 4 colors to work with. But just do the best you can with what you can available. So as it says here, these are the codes we're going to be using. So if you want the cell to be black, you want it to have a code of 0 0. White is a code of 0 1. Red is a code of 1 0, and blue is a code of 11. So I'm just going to take this line at the bottom. Now, the first problem we've got is you see these grey squares at the bottom. We haven't got any of those, so I'm just going to have to use, I'm just going to do black and red cells here. So I'm just going to assume that my line here, the bottom line here, I'm actually just going to do black cells all the way across. As it says here, the code for black is 0 0. So I'm going to type in 0 0 into all these cells. Now, the blue shapes up here, that's a feature of Excel, and if you click on it, click on the cell with the green triangle in the corner, then click on this little yellow thing here and click on the arrow pointing down and say ignore this error. What you can now do, in fact, is I'm going to press Ctrl+C to copy that cell. I'm going to drag my mouse across the cells at the bottom there, and I'm going to do a paste to put them in, and you'll notice that it's put errors in every single cell. But if I click on this one here and say copy the values only, that one there, I still get the triangles. So I'm just going to ignore those for the time being. But anyway, on the left here, I'm going to put 3 black cells, and I'm going to do the same on the right. And then I want a line of some reds, So it says up here red is 10. So if I type in 10, I'll get my reds. So I'm just going to type a bunch of those in with a black cell in the middle. That's roughly the middle. And so on. So the idea is that you can gradually build up this Spider-Man image and create something that's reasonably close to it. Anyway, once you finish making your image, what I'd like you to do is please save all your work. Now, if you finish really early, because you're super fast at working through this, you can have a go at creating your own image here. You could try and create the code to put an image in here. However, what I would like you to do, please, is work through this until the end of the lesson, and then when you get to the end of the lesson, regardless of how far you've got with your Spider-Man, I'd like you to save your work and hand it into Microsoft Teams, so you'll turn that into the Teams assignment in the normal manner. Now, something that's quite important is I'm expecting everybody to have completed the low resolution and high resolution in full, and you'll need to complete, just do the best you can with the Spider-Man. I'm not expecting you to complete it in full, but if you can, that's absolutely great.